All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of This is Coaching Show. I'm one of the hosts, Marquise Navarro. I'm joined by, of course, Monica Riva. Nicolette is out today. She was supposed to be here, but she lost power. There's a transformer that blew somewhere in the neighborhood, so they're trying to fix it. She did say if she gets power, she's going to jump on. So hopefully that happens because we miss her. But today we have a special guest. We are in the interview phase, of course, and this guy I've been wanting to get on since we started doing interviews. I've known him going on 2 years, maybe over 2 years now. We've been kind of talking like every week about random stuff, but a lot of coaching, and it's been awesome to watch him on his journey to building what he's built in the coaching world. And it's very unique, and I'm looking forward to the audience hearing about it because I haven't heard of anyone really doing what he's doing. So, Russell, welcome to the show. I'm really happy that you're on. Yeah, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Marquise, for having me here, and Monica. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm excited to be here and to share my story and journey and what I have going on to really help and serve primarily men in the coaching arena. So I'm a mindset coach. I've been certified through David Bear, who has one of the leading growing coaching businesses in the U.S. right now. And we focus primarily, as mindset on a mindset. But I focus on helping men who have they've been successful. They've done all the right things. They've been doing, the stuff that they thought. They went to college, they had a big house, raising their family, good career, all those things. But still something inside doesn't feel right, right? They feel like they're missing out. Doesn't quite add up. And they're wondering, is there more? Should there be more to life? What's going on? And my answer to that is yes, there is. That ultimately it gets back to what's going on between these two ears here, and that's where we try to unpackage things and help men live a more fulfilling life. What I do is I have a program called Master Your Life, which is about creating an unconquerable mindset. Because when we get our mind right, then we get our life right. But one of the things that's unique about the program, and I think this is where Marquise was kind of hitting upon, is the other thing that I've noticed with, especially with men, is that they struggle to create that brotherhood in their lives, bonds with other men. And part of that is going through life, right? We do all the right things, we get a job, we raise our family, and we forget about ourselves. And as part of that process, we lose our friend group. We lose our tribe, our brotherhood. And we forget to maintain that and keep that up. And we start doing the whole lone wolf thing, right? I'm out there in the world doing it all on my own, making it, carrying all this weight of responsibility on my shoulders. And when we're young and ambitious, right, and it's all starting out, we've got all the energy and it's great. We can handle it. But somewhere along the line, we start to get tired and we don't have that support group to lean upon. So I help men kind of rebuild those relationships. And one of the ways I do that is on adventure weekends. So I do these retreats primarily for men, retreats for men that are designed to get them together, like-minded men, where we start to talk about that, break it down, and look at how do you really build those relationships again? What are the key components to that? And so we do some activities and some training over a weekend adventure and talk about those principles and start that process of rebuilding the tribe, rebuilding the brotherhood, so that they don't have to live life alone anymore. Right? They have a support group. They have that community, which we do things. And I know in the personal development communities, we talk about this a lot, right? Personal development doesn't happen by yourself.
Right.
It happens with others.
Yep.
Right? That's why coaches exist. We're there to help you along the way. But it's also important to have your tribe around you that's on a similar journey. Marquise and I are in a tribe like that, right? We support each other. We get together every week and we do those things. And It's a great community. One of the things that's missing in that, though, is proximity. Right? We can't really get together if I'm struggling at home or my pipes burst, right, which happened to a lot of people recently. I can't call Marquise up and say, "Hey, can you come help me out? My basement's flooded. I need some help." And I guarantee you, if Marquise could, he'd be there. But it's a 15-hour drive.
Give or take.
You know, it's not going to happen. So I'm really focused on building those local communities for men so that they have that resource with them together and doing things together and having community where they're at, where they can make that connection and really live lives together.
Oh, I like that. And yeah, you definitely hit on something big. I think we've talked about it here before. Matter of fact, we talked about it last time. Group coaching is amazing, but you're taking it, in my opinion, to another level. It's group coaching, but you're building friendships and relationships. It's not just a bunch of folks with different paths getting together. It's a bunch of like-minded individuals who are on the same journey, who will have a lot in common, right?
Right.
And they're sharing and learning as they go together. So that is very important, as well as individual coaching. Um, because once you get comfortable with the tribe, then you can share more. As you've seen the journey with our own tribe, right?
Right.
Where people first get there, they're kind of shy and quiet, and then once people start sharing and they realize, oh, I'm not alone here, I have that same problem, they start opening up as well. So no, I think that's amazing. um, One thing I would ask is, what got you into what made you want to become a coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's kind of a long story. So bear with me for a minute.
Got time?
Because it's been my own personal journey over a number of years. And it started probably 10 years ago. I was that guy. I was the guy who was doing all the right things. Went to college, got a degree, um, ended up starting out in a career in the insurance industry as an actuary, which required lots of studying, lots of working hard. Um, got married, started to have a family. So I'm doing all the right things. And we'll fast forward through this process of studying and progressing in a career, which at the time was the number one career in America. Like, if I'm going to go out and work, I'm going to do the best thing that you can do. Um, and I've reached the pinnacle of that in my career. I'm a chief actuary in an insurance company locally here. Beautiful wife, 5 kids, living in a house, doing all the things, running a Cub Scout pack, running an Awana club at my church. Having an impact where I was. But I was always busy, always running, always doing the next thing. And one day, I went into the doctor's office for a routine checkup, and some results didn't come out as expected. And I began this journey of exploring my health and seeing what the impact of all these things I've done in my life, living for everyone else, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though the little voice in the back of my head was like, is there more than this? Or I'm just going through the motions and what's going on? I was ignoring that. But I was forced to confront it when I started on this health journey. And after 3 or 4 months of testing, which was really probably the scariest time of my life, trying to figure out what was going on, I was diagnosed with a very rare disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis, which basically is a big way of saying the bile ducts in your liver are collapsing.
Hmm.
And because of that, your liver is failing. So I was put on a transplant list, and then another journey emerged where for 6 years I waited on the transplant list, just getting sicker and sicker and sicker until I was the sickest person around and they could put me at the top of the list. A lot of people don't make it through that journey. We have an organ shortage in our country. And the whole process is is one that makes you stop and reflect about, this could be it. What am I going to do? Thankfully, I did receive a transplant on October 21st of 2014. So I'm five and a half, coming up, on my 6th year post transplant. But the thing that really got to me is after that, I came back, and during my recovery and after it was a horrible experience. Wouldn't wish it upon anyone. Lots of pain, just going through a whole bunch, just physically and emotionally at that time. But I started going back to doing the same thing I was doing before. And I really started to question, it's like, is this really worth it? Is this the life I want to live? I mean, I've gone through all this. And everybody's telling me you were saved for a purpose here in life, right? And at the time I'm going, well, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
I'm just going back to the same job, doing the same things, carrying all the weight and not feeling fulfilled. And I started asking those hard questions about, who am I really? What do I want? Which began this journey of personal development, of trying to understand the answer to those questions and what would bring me fulfillment in my life. And through that process, I got connected to the awesome coach, David Bear, and other awesome people along the way. But it was David Bear's methodology and his mindset work that really helped me to catapult the transformation that I was going through. I'd already started it and was doing a lot of things, reading all the books, listening to podcasts. But it was when I got connected with a coach in a coaching organization that things really accelerated. And so this last year, after all the work I've done with David Bear, I wanted to, and I knowing that I had a heart for coaching, because really the thing that I've done well and was part of my purpose as I have learned it to be is really helping others achieve their best. And all the things that I'd done about in the past were really about that. In my career, the thing I excelled at was helping others grow and become the professionals they wanted to be. When I was in doing all the activities for the kids organizations, it was about helping those kids rise up to become better at what they were wanting to become better at. So coaching was in my heart. And even before those, I was a teacher. I was teaching mathematics. Right? So it's always been about teaching and helping others grow. And so seeing that in my life, seeing that trend and that desire, and that's what gives me fulfillment, I wanted to reach out and become a coach and help others along the way. So that's why I got certified through David Bear's methodology. It's transformational for me. I wanted to be able to share that and help others as well.
No, that's an amazing story. And of course, we've known each other, so I knew the story, but I needed folks to hear it for themselves. And I want people to realize that the first long conversation I had with this man, I was sitting in my truck at a welding certification. I just retired. I was retiring from the Air Force, and we agreed to meet up for a call just to chit chat. And halfway through the conversation, I asked him why he wasn't a coach. And he wasn't really there yet, but he was like everything, the way he was speaking and his whole like logic, the way he put everything into a logical perspective. I was like, this guy should be a coach. And then 6 months later, I'm pretty sure I told him he needed to start copying and pasting everything he posted because it'd be an amazing book. Some of the stuff I've read that he has written is very, you would think that he'd been sitting on it for like a decade because it was very well thought out and it looks like something that should be in a book. The life lessons, the philosophy of Russell Creed is something that like me as a coach, I love coaching, but I'm like, one day I want to be like this guy when I grow up because he does have this amazing philosophy of just at life period. And now you know why, what he's been through what he's seen and overcome, I think he is right. A lot of people wouldn't survive that. You can hear it in the way he tells the story and what he's been through. That he is a fighter, but he does it in a gentle way, because he's got that voice, right? You kind of just want to sit back and listen. Need a fire in the background, you know. So, but he's probably the toughest guy I've known, and you know, it's not easy, especially with a family, you know, kids, a job, and uh, for a lack of a better term, possibly dying. He's still maintaining and fighting through. So, um, no, it's a very impressive story, and thank you very much for sharing it with everyone. Um, it's it's awesome. So let's go back to your coaching. Describe a typical weekend for our listeners.
Yeah. So weekend adventures that we put together are really designed to get men out of their current environment and connected with others. So we start the weekend at a trailhead. So the adventure is a backpacking adventure, and this isn't one that's designed to really break you down physically. It's not one of these Spartan races or Gogis or a mud race or something like that. Those are all great and they serve a purpose, right? That's not our purpose. This is more about creating time to connect with yourself and with others. So we start with a week on a Friday night, sitting around a campfire. We set up camp, we're around the campfire, and that's when men start to open up. So it's first night is really about starting to share your story, starting to get connected. And the thing is that this is one of the things that I teach is for men to really start to open up, they've got to do something together. It's an activity. And so this becomes the activity. Is the weekend is the activity that kind of creates that bond. Men that bleed together and sweat together, bond together. So it's our weekend away is that activity that starts it all. And the other thing, men struggle to communicate face to face. It's just not natural for us. We want to be doing things. We want to be working towards something together, having some common goal. And when we do that, as we're walking shoulder to shoulder and working shoulder to shoulder, we begin to open up. And the fire pit becomes a safe place to do that because we're sitting in a circle, shoulder to shoulder, and there's something else to focus on. It's the fire that we focus on, and we're all tending and taking care of the fire. It's a small common goal, but it becomes a common goal, and it creates that safe space for men to start to open up. And so the weekend is really about that connection, creating the bond. The highlight of day 2 is really the hike to the top of a mountain. It's an Ozark mountain, so if you're thinking Rocky Mountains in your mind, it's not like that. It's a strenuous hike, but it's not so hard that it's not achievable for anyone in average health. They can make it. We carry packs that are probably about 30 pounds, so reasonable thing to accomplish. But it's about creating that bond. And so along the trail is the time to contemplate, the time to connect. We do some activities throughout the weekend to help reinforce that. And so I teach men what I call the 4 A's of authentic connection. It's how you can really start to build those connections. And the first day is activity. So the weekend is all about the activity. Men who do things together, bond together, right? Second one, is about acknowledging. So this is one thing that men struggle with is reaching out and saying, telling another man what they're proud of in them, right? Women are pretty good at this. They do it naturally. I've seen my wife walk into the grocery store and she's getting ready to check out and she'll look at the cashier and go, man, those are fantastic earrings. Where'd you get those? Right? Instant connection.
Yep.
And then they start chatting it up and cashier's ringing it all up and doing her job, but they're just sitting there chit-chatting. And before it's over, they're best friends, right? You would think they were best friends. So the same thing applies for men. We're just not naturally doing that. Right? Marquise, you're a wonderful woodworker. I love what you created behind you. Right? Man, I wish I could do something like that. That's a form of acknowledgement. And how does that make you feel, Marquise?
Pretty good.
Right. Now, do you want to be my friend?
Of course.
Right? So it opens the doorway. It's just that start, but it's about taking down the barriers that we normally put up and beginning to open ourselves up to that and creating the pathway for that friendship and connection to develop. Right? So we practice these things over the weekend. There's 2 other A's. We practice those as well and start to build that. And the goal is that the men that you go with, that you start to create that bond. And maybe that becomes your tribe. Maybe it doesn't. Sometimes people just don't gel. That's okay. It's about really having the toolkit so that you can go out into your world, understand a pathway, and create your own tribe again.
Nice. Yeah, no, that sounds like a good time. And the whole breaking down barriers thing. Yeah, we've discussed this on the show numerous times, how men are stubborn. And when it comes to anything dealing with emotion, we're extra stubborn. And we have to learn to break out of that as hard as it is. But it reminded me of something I learned actually in the military. So that whole common ground or common torture, if you will, it takes me back to like the first time I was at basic training, or when I got to my technical training. The first 4 weeks, we're actually, even though I was in the Air Force, we're trained like the Army infantry. So we're in the field for in and out of the field for 4 weeks, running and gunning, move, shooting, and communicating. And that first day that we got smoked by, the TIs or the MCLs, by the end of the day, we were all pretty damn close because we all were in pain. Our knuckles were hurting because they had us doing knuckle push-ups on, concrete in San Antonio with no gloves, the whole nine. And yeah, it's definitely funny how shared pain or shared activity can bring people together.
Right.
So,
and it was observing things like that was really the inspiration. I'm looking back on my own life and going, what happened? Why don't I have any friends anymore? Those that I feel, there were plenty of people in my life, right? I have lots of those friends that like, how's the weather and what's going on with your kids? But we never talked about the deep things about what's going on in our lives. And when was the last time I had that? That was probably college, maybe high school. Why? Because we were all having a shared experience, right? We were all in it together. I mean, we had our own goals and different paths, but we were still stuck in the same class together, right? And enduring through that, or on the same sports team or whatever. And so we had that shared experience. And then we grow up, we go out, and we start to do our own thing. And we don't create those experiences anymore in our lives, right? But when you go into the military, it's a forced experience, right? And you create tight bonds because of it.
Yep.
And you look at other things like sports teams, they become tight because they've got that forced experience, right? And if we look back in history, before we became the modern culture that we are now, men used to work in the field together. They were all day together.
Yep.
Right? Became that shared experience. So it's that shared experience that really starts to create that platform for the bond. Even as I look back on the friends that I had, that I did feel like I still had from college, what made those last is that we would get together on a regular basis and go on an adventure, right? Whether it was canoeing or spending New Year's together or whatever, it was the shared experience that kept the bond strong.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Monica.
And that's why they also on in certain workplaces they have these shared experience theme days as well to bond, because even though you spend a lot of time together working, it's not the same as spending time adventuring or having other types of experiences.
right?
Am I correct?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people spend time in the office together, right? But it's not like they came together because they wanted to be
But it's
together,
not the same thing.
right? It's not the same thing. There's still a part of me, at least when I was in the office, was like, I want to be over there instead, right? I want to be doing this other thing. And I'm only here with these people because I need to be here, not because I want to be here all the time.
Right.
And really, that's a languaging thing that you can reframe. If you start to reframe that, you can create that experience more where you are. And I had, lots of people that I worked with before that I still keep in contact with, because those were the ones that I ended up creating a bond with. But you're right. It's about being intentional about an experience. And like I said, that just creates the platform, because there's more that needs to be done to take it further. And
so what could somebody do? Sorry. So what could somebody do on a regular basis to connect more? Like, I know that a lot of women probably have the same problem as men have, but what can any one of us, like men or women, do to connect more to people? Because we are living in a lonely life, most of us now. Everybody is online and nobody sees anyone. And if you see somebody there with a mask, and you don't hardly even make eye contact with people any longer.
Yeah.
So it's hard to connect. Do you have any good ideas on what we could do?
Well, one, just from a tactical viewpoint, it's about intentionality, right? Being intentional, deciding who you want to cultivate those friendships with, and being purposeful with your time. Reach out to them on a regular basis. So it's sounds easy, but a lot of times we get lost in the day-to-day and we forget to do that, right? But part of how I want to answer that is a lot of it has to do with our mindset, because we have these thoughts that we're all alone, or that nobody really wants to hear from me, or they're not gonna. Or another one is, this went through my mind a lot. Why doesn't anyone ever reach out to me? And then I want to play the whole thing the other way. Is like, well, nobody's going to reach out to me. Why am I going to reach out to them? Right? So it's about getting the mindset right first. Because I found in my life that the thing that held me back the most was that I thought I had no friends, or that nobody cared, or that I was all alone, or that it was a lonely place, right? And I created that reality for myself. The reality was there were tons of people around me. Right? I was engaged in all these groups and organizations, but I was unwilling to take that first step, to be vulnerable, to acknowledge someone else, or to start to create that relationship from my own thoughts holding me back, right? I couldn't see that at the time, but now I see that it's really the way I was thinking about myself was impacting how I showed up in the world and how I acted in the world. And it also, others perceive that. We kind of forget that. And we have these fine-tuned sort of sensors that a lot of us aren't really aware of, but they're acting. And so we create these scenarios subconsciously where people don't want to reach out to us, or people don't want to be with us, because we're putting off that vibe that we're all alone. So it starts with getting the mindset right first. And that creates the space to actually be, oh yeah, I can reach out to Marquise or Kenny or John or whatever. And here's the key for a lot of men that I found. When they don't respond, I don't take it personally. Because that's going to happen.
Yep.
Some guys aren't going to be ready. Some guys aren't going to be in the same place. Some guys aren't going to connect. And you've got to keep that from derailing you. And I mean, I'm assuming that's the same for women too. I try to speak from my place as a man, as a guy, and not to impose that, but I think this is a relational thing, right? It's true everywhere. I,
It is. It is. It is.
right.
I grew up in Norway, so all my childhood and school friends are far away from where I live, and that happens to so many people that move somewhere else. So now I live in Switzerland, and even if you switch a state in the US, you're far away from where you grew up. So it happens to all of us, I'm sure. And not having any of my childhood friends here around here, getting in and learning to know more people and getting through that barrier. It's okay to say hi and talk and chit chat, even when you have kids at the playground.
Mm-hmm.
But going to somebody's house or being invited into somebody's house and being really part of their close friendships, that's the harder part. That is sort of the part that not everybody cracks through. And so a lot of women, at least that I know, have this problem too.
Right.
I know I had same issue growing up. You hit the nail on the head with that, moving around all the time, Monica. Uh, the longest I lived anywhere is 7 years. So,
Yeah.
The only childhood friend that I actually have and keep in touch, and it's via Facebook. It's not like I talk to him all the time. Is my buddy from Vegas when we were in elementary school. And the only reason we ended up keeping in touch is by happenstance. Our families ended up moving to the same location when we got to high school. Um, Crazy, I know, but he's been the longest friend I've known forever. But my closest friend I've known way less, about 20 years now. He's my best friend, but he's the only person that I can really call and really get really comfortable with. Right? Not saying don't get me wrong, I'm comfortable with Russell and the rest of our team, but that is my one anchor, and of course my wife. My other best friend. But yeah, it's definitely difficult, and trying to get past the I don't want to bother people.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
That is very difficult. I still, like, to this day, I'm 43 years old and I still have that issue. I don't want to bother anybody. Um, Hindsight, I should have done that when I first moved into this house. I had to build a loft. I did it by myself. I should have called my wife's cousin who lives down the street, and is actually very handy. So I'm learning to the same thing, like get out of my own way, and it's okay to, hey, I need some assistance. You have the skills. Can you please help me? Um, yeah, so it's very difficult, and for men and women. Um, but I think men are just more stubborn. I don't know, to be honest with you. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I
Well,
know
you're
some.
very good at giving women compliments. So
Yeah,
why wouldn't you be good at giving men compliments? Or saying, "Hey, Marquise, you have a really nice back,
yeah,
the wood behind you." And I mean, Russell, you said that. I personally would also, as your wife, Russell, you talked about your wife saying that when she would go to the store, she could compliment even the cashier. I do the same thing. It comes natural, but you guys compliment women, so why not? I mean, what's
yeah.
the
It's just
difference?
different, right? So kind of here's one thing I can equate it to. So when I was in the military, I was also trained in certain methods of collecting information. And one of those things that we taught was it's called elicitation, right? And it's basically asking questions without asking questions. So it's me sharing information about myself to get you to share information about yourself. And then at some point, when dealing with men, one thing men love to do is to teach other men. And that's how I would break other people down. I would play stupid and really chat them up. I had to break, don't get me wrong, I had to get in the character and everything because that's not my natural thing to do, is to just really compliment some dude about, oh man, you must have an amazing job and blah, 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 nice suit and you look really fancy. That's just awkward for me, but it works. So Russell is right. If you can tell a man, give him a compliment on whatever it is, it will break down barriers immediately. So yeah, you're definitely onto something. Without you figured it out without even having to go through the training I did, low crawling through mud and stuff. So that's why I said he's a really, really smart dude.
Well, you set me up perfectly for my third A,
Good.
which is ask for help, because men like to teach. And if you will humble yourself to ask someone else to help you understand something, again, you start to create that tighter bond, right? It's one thing to say, hey, love your woodworking. Now, Marquise, could you show me how to do something like that? Right? And then I'm going to come over and we're going to spend time together and you're going to share your knowledge and we're going to bond even tighter, right? But it takes, again, it's that next level of letting go of your own ego, humbling yourself, and asking for help. And men don't like to ask for help. They don't even like to ask for directions, right? But that's part of the key, right? And then you start to create that bond. And then one of the things that I encourage, I'm in a local men's group too. And so one of the things that I encourage the men in that group to do is find the things that they like to do, go do them, and just put out a blanket statement, at least within the group. Hey, I'm going to do this. Who wants to join me? And you start to find those that have the common interest, right? But you've got to do it without without an expectation of outcome,
right?
Because then we start to sound needy, and that comes across, right? It comes across, and people feel that. So it's about really understanding what you want, being confident in who you are, letting others know who you are, and then you start to attract those that are like you, to where you can build those bonds. And then use the techniques, right? Compliment, acknowledge, ask for help, right? Try to learn something together, whatever that might be,
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, all of this leads back to one big word when it comes to men. I don't know what it is with women. It's different for women and men. With men, I know it's ego. Getting past your own ego helps you build those bonds and that tribe, and open up to other men. I couldn't say what it is for women, because women don't have the same ego men do.
No, they don't. No, I'm not sure what it would be. I have to think about it, but it's not the ego thing, I think.
No, but it yeah, and maybe, who knows, Russell, you can develop that as well, and then you can have like your the women's side as well, the women's retreat. You and your wife can go tandem, right? So yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, the whole aspect of men building a tribe with other men, through mutual. I don't want to say suck, because it doesn't suck. It may feel like it sucks for a minute because you're hiking up a big mountain, right? But it doesn't suck. It's the the climb is the worst, but once you get to the top, it's like that exhale, right? That, oh,
Yeah.
I made it. This is awesome. And then everybody's kind of, next high fiving, hugging, and shaking hands and everything. And then when you get to the bottom, you're like, wow, we did that together. And that memory will be just embedded in forever. I remember that one time I climbed a mountain with Russell, and the feeling I had associated with it was amazing. So no, I think it's awesome what you're doing. And one day I would love to join you on one of these retreats. Especially now that I got a new knee, we can do that. So one question I do love to ask coaches, on all of our podcasts is, what is coaching to you? Like, what would you define coaching as?
Yeah, for me, coaching is really a partnership between a client and a coach, to help that client with whatever journey they're on. So my role as a coach is really as a guide, and an impartial observer who can help my clients see things that they can't see before. We all get in our own lanes, and we're kind of confined by the worldview that we compile and put together. Those concepts that you talked about, Marquise, of why bother, right? And we start to break those things down. What does that really mean? Why bother? How do you bother someone? Like, what are you thinking there? When have you been bothered? What was that like? Right? You start to ask these questions and break it down to where you really see that, oh, wait, bother is just this human concept that we came up with. And I don't even know what it really means anymore, because, people just have a choice. You can call them up and they can say yes or no. Did you bother them? I don't know. What does that mean? So that's the coach's role, is really to ask some critical questions, help a client see things that they couldn't see before, so that they can see more possibilities in their lives. Because when you can see more possibilities, you have more options, and you can become more of who you want to be.
Nice. See, I knew I was going to like your answer. And the one thing I will point out, like, we haven't had the same answer yet. So the whole point of this show is to show individuals that there are different types of coaches in the world, with different ways of coaching, different philosophies of coaching, and there's no one fits all type coach. So if you're ever looking for coaching, they're out there, right? You just gotta go out there and find them. So yeah. So that leads me to the next segment, which would be, tell folks how they can get a hold of you, because I think it's important that we let folks know that, hey, this person is located in this location, and he's got some adventure weekends coming up, right?
Right, I do. So we try to do a weekend about once a month, and ideally I'd have them going more often. The next one is April 9th, and then May 21st, and those are in my local area. Do have an Eventbrite set up where you can find those, a men's backpacking adventure in the St. Louis area, St. Louis, Missouri. People are welcome to travel in to learn the skills and tools. In fact, many have been on our adventures, have been from other areas.
Nice.
We keep it small, and we're outside, and we all use individual equipment. So I know COVID is a concern these days, but this is about as COVID friendly as you can be when you're outdoors, and we keep our distance. And again, we use all separate equipment so that we aren't commingling together. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, and just my personal accounts, Russel Creed. You can find me there. And I'm in the process of getting a website set up. My company's name is Invictus Life. Invictus means unconquerable. That's what we're trying to create, an unconquerable mindset. It's inspired by a poem called Invictus, which was really an inspiration for me as I was going through all my trials. And so I wanted to carry that forward. And it's really, Invictus is about creating that unconquerable mindset that no matter what's happening in life, I am the master of my fate. I get to decide what's going on and how I interpret it, and whether that's going to serve me or not. Right? So I am the captain of my soul. And those are some quotes from the poem. So theinvictuslife.com is my website. It'll be up in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have information about my one-on-one coaching and adventure weekends and how you can get enrolled in any of those things.
Awesome. So yeah, I love it. We will definitely, for those of you watching or listening, either on the podcast or video, I will put all the links to his information in the description. And I really think if it'd be worthy of folks reaching out to him. He's a great person, first off. And then he's an excellent coach. I know he's taught me quite a bit, whether he wants to admit it or not. I've learned quite a bit by just having a conversation with him about myself, about coaching, and about overcoming certain things. And he shoots it to you straight. He doesn't sugarcoat it, but he does it in a way that I couldn't do it. I don't know how he finds the words to make you feel like you kind of you knew you could do it, but you didn't. Now it's time to get off your ass and get it done. But he makes you feel good about it at the end. I'm like, it's amazing. So I really appreciate you joining us today, Russell. Monica, do you have anything to add?
No, it's been a really great conversation, and I learned a lot about men and and how you bond and how we can all bond with and better in the future. So thanks so much, Russell.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here with you, Monica, and to meet you this time. And I enjoyed our time together. And Marquise, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And, I'll see you later and every week.
Yes. All right. So for those of you that are listening and are regulars, you can reach out to us at thisiscoachingshow@gmail.com. If you have any questions, concerns, want to see anything specific, or if you want some coaching, shoot us an email. Everything you send us will be confidential unless you agree that we can share it on the show. Or if you agree to come on the show and get some coaching by one, two, or all three of us, Nicolette, Monica, and myself. So yeah, until next time, I really appreciate everybody. See y'all later.